France, 1940. War had ripped through the country like a storm. Cities burned, families vanished, and in one quiet village, hidden behind overgrown trees and crumbling stone walls, stood a house carrying secrets no one dared speak aloud. For years, it waited, waiting for someone to come back. Every night, Julia saw the same dream. A long corridor, flickering candlelight, whispering walls, a house she had never visited, yet somehow knew by heart. She would wake up breathless, drenched in sweat, her heartbeat echoing in the silence of her room. Something was calling her, something unfinished. Julia worked as a junior records officer at Kingston Property Developers, a respected real estate company. One evening, while sorting through old archived files in the company basement, Julia stumbled upon a forgotten property record. One house, one owner, Robert Blackthorn, and beneath his name, another entry, the caretaker, Mrs. Martha. She looked at it and she remembered the property from her dreams. As if destiny had quietly placed the truth in her hands. Unable to ignore the pull, Julia traveled to the village the very next morning. The house stood exactly as it had in her dreams. Dark windows, iron gates. Mrs. Martha the caretaker greeted her. Her welcoming look was strange, as if Julia bellings the family. The moment she stepped inside, the air changed. The walls were whispering as if they WRLCOMED Julia. The wooden floors creaked beneath her feet. Julia, she froze, yet the house knew her name. That evening, the elderly caretaker, Mrs. Martha, gave her a tour of the house. Gave her instruction. Without explanation, she handed Julia two things. An old ring of rusted keys, and a small glass vial filled with holy water. For protection, she whispered softly. Julia didn't ask for much. Deep down, she already knew. The next morning, driven by instinct she couldn't explain, Julia ran her fingers across the library walls. Suddenly, click, a hidden chamber opened. Behind it lay shelves of ancient books, sealed letters, family documents, and a leather-bound journal covered in dust. Robert Blackthorn's journal. Julia opened it carefully, and with every page, her world shattered. Her father, Philip Blackthorn, had not disappeared during the war. He had been murdered by his own brother, Robert Blackthorn. The journal confessed everything, the conspiracy, greed and blood. Philip Blackthorn was killed by Robert, his own younger brother. Julia's mother had died trying to protect her child, and Julia herself had been secretly sent away as an infant, hidden before Robert could erase the last rightful heir to the Blackthorn estate. Julia's hands trembled. The next day she was stunned to open a deed that names Julia Blackthorn as the heir. The dreams, the house, the whispers, it was all real. She wasn't just a visitor. She was a Blackthorn, and the house had been waiting for her return. 2 days later, another secret revealed itself. Behind a cracked stone wall in the basement, Julia uncovered hidden chests overflowing with gold bars, diamonds, rare jewels. At that moment, everything changed. This wasn't simply an inheritance. It was stolen history returning to its rightful place. And for the first time in her life, Julia understood why destiny had pulled her there. Not for revenge alone, but for justice. On the 5th day, Robert Blackthorn finally returned. Older and frailer, he ordered Jukiato leave the property. Julia managed him, promised to take care of him. But the arrogance in his eyes remained. Until he saw Julia, the color drained from his face. Fear replaced pride in an instant. Because standing before him was not a ghost from the past. It was the truth he thought he had buried forever. The next morning, beneath the gray skies of the garden lawn, neighbors gathered as voices rose across the estate. Julia confronted Robert publicly. No more secrets. No more lies. The village listened in stunned silence as the truth finally surfaced after decades. And a stolen child who had returned home. From that day forward, Robert changed. She couldn't finish his lunch. One unseen force choked him. He became restless, lost his sleep. The family doctor visited. His hallucination and fear made him bedridden. He barely slept. He muttered to himself. Paranoia and fear made him sick. The shadows inside the house seemed to follow him from room to room. Whispers echoed through the halls at night. Every mirror reflected terror in his eyes. Doctor visited, but he got no relief. It was as though the house itself had turned against him. Julia watched silently, not with hatred, but with understanding. Some punishments cannot be escaped. And some justice does not require human hands. That night, Robert locked himself inside his room. Hours later, screams shattered the silence of the estate. They rushed to his room and found the mirror in Robert's room was shattered. He just vanished. Lately he was terrified to look at the mirror. Did it pull him into it? How? The forefathers of Robert? The mirror was shattered, the room was empty, and Robert Blackthorn was gone. No trace. After funeral, the elderly villagers met Julia. They remembered how one family vanished. They remembered Philip Blackthorn, who built a successful business. He vanished one day. Nobody saw his wife and little daughter Julia. But destiny had finally brought Julia home. And unlike Robert, Julia chose not to rebuild the house with fear. She rebuilt it with purpose. A bishop was invited to bless and purify the halls that had carried darkness for generations. The abandoned rooms were restored. The gardens bloomed again. Soon after, Julia opened a free school for the village children. She funded a doctor's chamber that provided medicine to families who could not afford treatment. Because long before greed destroyed the Blackthorn name, Julia's family had once been known for compassion. And now, through her, that legacy lived again. But Julia's rise didn't stop there. After Robert Blackthorn's death, Julia quietly used part of the hidden family fortune to purchase 60% of the equities of Kingston Property Developers, the very company that opened the door of a miracle. The same company that unknowingly led her back to her stolen past, now stood under her control. Within months, Julia Blackthorn became the company's new CEO. The orphaned girl history tried to erase had become the most powerful woman connected to the very empire built around her family's lost legacy. And in the end, Julia's story proved something the world often forgets. You cannot erase destiny. What is buried will one day rise. What is stolen will someday return. And what truly belongs to you will always find its way back home. But when it finally does, you don't simply reclaim it. You rebuild it stronger than ever before.
Please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Thank you for watching.